Hey y'all, and welcome to Skyrim Scripting. In this episode, the paths are crossing because we are working on both custom console commands and using JContainers, because I want to use JContainers in custom console commands, and I'm going to show you why. And come along on this journey with me as we make custom console commands v2 awesome. So let me boot up Skyrim and show you what we made in our last episode. There's not much. We made a command called gimme. I don't even think it actually prints out the arguments. It doesn't even go into the little history yet. Gimme. It was just to prove that, as you can see, it's not printing out like script not found, gimme. So we're actually handling the gimme command with our custom console commands v2, which we made some series about. We made an episode about creating the interface, which is this interface here. This simple interface for defining a command so that folks can easily just make a command and say like, here's my config, here's, you don't need this part. I don't know what I was doing here. Need a config and that. Seriously, don't know what that's there for. I don't know what that's there for. I was working on something else. And here's the kind of example of a full interface that we thought of. We want to be able to make commands, but also subcommands, like say, hey, gimme has two subcommands, one called gold and one called lockpicks. And whenever you call each one of those different subcommands, which will get passed along to the command when it's called, then we would do something different like giving gold or giving lockpicks. And we also wanted to be able to add flags and options, like maybe you can say -s and it will add the things silently. It won't print it out in the top left. Or like we had an idea for like an option that could just multiply the amount that you give it. It's stupid, but we just wanted ideas for flags and options. So we made this interface, and then we started to create the implementation, which we totally did. Most of it is here in console command. Here's just the general kind of underlying interface, and then we actually did the implementation here. Ignore that bit at the top. We're going to look at that right now, where we implemented actually listening for commands. What to trigger when a command is run, and just looking up the commands that were registered as well as registering them. So registering them, finding them, listening for commands in general, and we're using a console helper for that, and what to do when a command comes in. So in this case, we either call out to the command that was registered, or we just run the command itself because it's not a registered command. So I started this morning on taking everything here, all of the arguments here. So like a command can have a description, it has a version, and I added some other things to it. I wanted to add here's where I wanted you to be able to call a global function custom console commands to register your command without going through the console command like extend interface if you don't want to. I wanted this to do everything behind the scenes. So you can create a command name, you can pass a description, you can pass a default subcommand, like maybe that's help or something, the version. These will just create subcommands. But also we need to store the instance of the command script itself if one was provided, and maybe a callback event if things are done manually. So that's all good and well, and I started doing this. I started creating fields for all the data. So if we have a command that we're tracking, we would track the names, the descriptions, the versions of them, the actual instances of the script instance that we need to be able to call your callback if you use the console command interface, custom callback commands, And then what flags and options does this command have? And similarly for subcommands, what is the subcommand name? What is the name of the command it's associated with? What's its description? What is the script that it's associated with? Does it have a custom callback? And what are the flag and option names? And then I started to write out, just barely started to write out what flags and options should be. And then I kind of zoomed down on this list and I said, jeepers creepers. So far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We'd probably end up with about 20 to 25 arrays, which is totally doable. It's totally doable. The annoying thing here is two things. One, not only can you register commands, which populate all of these arrays, but you can unregister commands, which would take things out of these arrays. And unregistering would be a pain in the butt, and we'd have to rewrite every array because we'd have to go through every array, yoink out the element for the command or subcommand that's being removed, and then recreate the array and squish everything and make sure all the indexes line up again. Because when you do multiple arrays like this, you can check out my Mastering Papyrus Arrays episode. Basically, this is a spreadsheet where the columns are names. You might call them dimensions, but really column names are names, description, version, blah, 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 blah. It's just a spreadsheet, but it's kind of on its side, right? You might think these are rows, but these are the different columns, and then each one of the elements in these represents a row in the spreadsheet, essentially. So, I don't want to rely on another library like JContainers. That's why a lot of mod authors don't throw in JContainers and Papyrus util all over the place. It's better if you can to make your mod work with as vanilla of a setup as possible without other mods. But if people add a bunch of commands, which could totally become possible, there will be performance degradation when looking up any of these things. And also just note, like, flag and option names here, I figured I would store as like a string where the flag and option names are separated with pipes or something. Because really, the commands and flags associated with the command, there's a list of flags and a list of options that we want to associate. So really, this would be better represented in like a tree. A map could help us out with that, a map of maps and stuff like that. So it really lends itself to JContainers, especially because JContainers will give us better performance. Now, I don't feel so bad because the console helper library that I'm creating has no dependencies. It has no dependencies, and it also works with the vanilla console.swift in case it needs to. I don't know, there's no good reason, but I made it work mostly with the vanilla console. There's some stuff that doesn't work if you don't have the built-in console Swift that it comes with. I don't know why you wouldn't use it, but we made it work with as vanilla of a setup as possible. So custom console commands, I'm okay with it relying on JContainers. It's actually really nice because it means that when other people create commands, they can rely on the fact that the users will always have JContainers. So everyone who implements a command can use JContainers if they want to. Because I think as soon as we put this in here, JContainers is going to be a dependency of custom console commands forever. And I think I'm okay with that. If people want their own low-level custom console commands, Console Helper does that for you. Console Helper has like a really minimalistic custom console command system. And this is just built on top of it to give it a really nice, friendly interface for users. So let's do this. Let's not do this. Here's what I want to do. I've got this custom console commands thing where I wanted to create a register command and have it just have a bunch of stuff. Let's call this from another mod and register commands and put them into JContainers, and then we can kind of dump that data in JContainers into a file if we want to. We can also decide whether or not we want to use JDB, which is the easiest way to expose your data to other modders. I think we won't to start with, because not all of the data here, like these arrays, these aren't necessarily things that we want to share with people, but we'll make it possible if you want to. You can get the identifier of our main map that holds all of this through through our custom console commands. So let me get us set up with another mod that calls this. And before we do, I guess I'm going to be in the way for some stuff that's on this side of the screen. I shouldn't be in the way of much because normally code is on this side of the screen. Should I hang out and say big? Alright, I will for now. And here's what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to make a mod called my cool commands. And I'm just going to give it a quest script, and on init, I'm going to have it, let's see, my cool commands, there we go. I'm going to have it register a bunch of commands, and we'll use that to make stuff work. Okay, here we go. I've got a my cool commands mod, and we can just say my cool commands in the quest script on init. I've got custom console commands imported, so I can say something like register command. And let's simplify this, and then we'll add to it later. So there's a bunch of parameters there. Let's get rid of most of them, and let's just make it so that we can do something like command name equals list commands. And we'll make it really meta, and it will actually list the commands that are registered. How about that? And then, because we're not extending a console command, we're not using that interface, but I want to get the global interface working first, and then the console command can basically just use the global interface behind the scenes. Command name, what else do we want? The event that should trigger, so we'll call it list commands or whatever. Okay, and then we'll say register for mod event list commands. I hate when I'm zoomed in for my screencast. That looks takes up so much of the screen. I want to say zoomed in for y'all. Those pop-ups are great and terrible. They're great for me, and they're terrible for what you see. Let's say on list command. On list commands command. Event, cool. And this little guy down here is a, fine, I'm going to be in the way now. I'll go. Right, cool. That one up there is going to take a string, which is the event name, because this is just an SKSE event. That's one of the downsides of using the global interface. When you use our cool interface that we made, you don't get exposed directly to SKSE events. We call your callbacks ourselves. So event name, and then string command, the command that was called, like the command text, and then float that's not used, and then form, which is sender, which we also don't care about. Okay, let's make this actually take these commands. And we can just call it list commands, comma, callback event. Event name. I like that, callback event. Cool. And then we'll listen for it, and then when we get it, I have console helper included here, so I can just say console helper print and say you called the list command, and then we'll print out the whole command text that we got. Cool, 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 cool. Maybe we'll even have this provide a parser. All right, so that shouldn't actually have compiled because, oh yeah, this does actually work. Cool. Because that does actually match this really long thing because everything has default values. So when you register a command, I'm deciding where I want helpers, if any, for our JDB stuff to be, if we store stuff in JDB. Right now we have all of our persistence here. Here's stuff we're going to want. Down here is a bunch of stuff that was working. I'm just going to comment all that stuff out for right now. And we'll kind of start from scratch. And so let's say our whole thing will have one map. Everything will live under one map that has just string keys representing what we're trying to access, maybe? Although I'd like it to be a little bit more performant than that. Just one map called commands. How about that? And then we might have one for subcommands, except those will probably go under the commands. So we'll say int property commands map. We won't put it in JDB. Commands map ID. Cool. Cool. And when the quest loads for the first time, we'll just make that. We'll say int on init and event, and that will map. That'll be string map, which is the default JMap, because a command will make its kind of identifier be its string, its command name. And so we'll say command map ID equals jmap.object, and then we'll retain it. If we're using JDB, you don't need to explicitly say retain, but if you're not, we need to tell it not to get rid of this object, and retain will also keep it in our save games, which is great. So you say j value retain command map ID. Cool. Cool. Now I don't want this, the custom console commands, to have any functions on it that aren't intended for our users to call. So if we have any helper functions for dealing with like this map, I want them to go here instead. They can be global functions here on custom console commands with these underscores. That's our private API, which people should know to ignore. Cool. I was going to say, can we ship it without that PSC? But we can't. So we're going to register the command. We should probably do something if it already exists. We could totally replace it. We could totally replace it. But we might want to deregister stuff. Okay, to deal with if it already exists. Let's just get something working. Just get something working. Let's just get back into Skyrim as quickly as we can to get that list things working. So we'll say people can get to this themselves if we want to. From our command, we'll actually hijack this and get into it so that we can list all the commands. Let's say for every command, we'll make a map. So we'll say int command map equals jmap.object. We'll make a new one. And then we'll have a bunch of stuff on it. So we'll say command map dot set string, or jmap set string command map. Let's have one for the name so that it knows its own name. And just call that command. And then we'll store the description. And then all we need right now is that callback event. This is going to make our code so much simpler. And this is assuming there is a callback event, so let's just do the stuff that we're actually dealing with right now. So we'll start by making this new map. We could even say, hey, please give us a new map. We could say function get new command map. Global and function, and it'll make a new JMap. So we think called a map. I wish it were called new, not object. And we'll add it here to the list. We do need command, so we'll say jmap. We again need to deal with if command is already registered. We'll set an object under this. On the command maps with the string command, and command map is the main object. So this is the object, that's the key. What am I missing? What's pissed? Oh wait, I'm global. To get this map, we need to say get instance dot command map ID. Okay. So right now this thing isn't compiling. I don't necessarily care right now. I'm gonna just comment that stuff out because we're gonna revisit it. And now this one fails on line 30. Close you, close you. All right, because we got rid of that. So we'll say int command map equals, and let's get it from custom console commands. Get us a new map for this command, please. May we please have a new map for this command. Let me make sure that that returns. Okay, it still shows red underline, but I'm pretty sure that's fine, and if we build, it's probably fine. Okay, so it adds it. Now maybe let's make it so that we always listen for commands. We'll just make it so that we always listen for commands for simplicity for right now. Here's listen for commands from before. Here's our on console command thingy. But it has logic right now for looking up the command in like an array and stuff. So let's get rid of that stuff. So this will get called every time a command comes into the console. Because by doing this using console helper, we kind of overrode everything. And so we'll say we want like the command name, which is going to be the first word if we separate it. So we'll say string command name, because it could have spaces in it. So equals string util dot split the command text on spaces and get the first thing. Which if there's no spaces will just be the word. Otherwise it'll be, if you say foo bar, it'll just be foo. So that's the command name. And so now let's see if there is a command name registered. And if there is, then we'll call its event. This registered a callback event, or other mod did rather. Called this, so this should work if we hook it up. So let's get that command from our map. Let's say command map equals jmap get object, because we're getting a map from this thing in the command map for the command name as the string. If it exists, then we'll run its callback. We'll say string callback event equals jmap get string on the command map. Maybe call it callback event. We could say like if callback event, but we're testing, we know that exists. So we'll just say send mod event of that name, callback event. I will send the full command text and then a float that I don't care about. Otherwise, let's use console helper to run the command. Maybe it's going to work. Let's compile. It compiles. Let's go to my cool commands. Compiles. Let's see here. Let's run SKSE with my cool commands and console helper and custom console commands and JContainers enabled. I don't need this gimme command. We'll come back to that. But I want my Khajiit lady. Thanks for hanging out, by the way, whoever's hanging out. I really want to get this done and out there. I really want it to be just like nice quality. I want people to really enjoy making these commands, whoever makes them. There's my Khajiit. And let's say, how would we call our command? List commands. You call it the list commands command. Cool. We can make it list commands if we wanted to. Let's quit, and it could kind of pry into the private data of our custom console commands just for right now. First of all, let's call it list, and let's say int get command map ID. So right now we're in the my cool commands, and we're going to use it during the episode to just poke at our data. And so I'm going to have it get our main map. So that will be custom console commands dot get instance dot command map ID. We're not supposed to get that, but we know where it is. So let's actually have this print out commands. So let's say a string array command names equals jmap get all the keys as an array of that command's map. So we'll say int command map equals get the object from the get command map ID from the command map ID for this command, which we know is list. So it's list map. Oh no, it's we do want to get the top level keys. Might be. Cool. Int index, or we can just print them. Debug dot notification. No, let's do console helper dot print command names. Cool. Let me try that. Well, before I try it, let's add two commands. Let's register a list command. And what should we do? I don't know. I'll just call it list 2. And it'll go to the same thing. Whatever. For now. Sure, it'll have a callback event of that name, and that, and we'll have list 2. We'll rename it to something worthwhile in a little bit. See if it works. You spider. Cool. There's all the list of all the commands. Sweet. And we could list the command and then list like a bunch of information about it. I actually might, for debugging purposes, make it so that while we do this, you can print out a bunch of information about it. Let me do it while I wait for the siren to pass. I know, I'll show you how to do it, but I think the siren's gonna pass. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to call this inspect, and it will inspect a command and print out all the information we know about it. It'll help us with our debugging just while we make this. So list commands is the event. I'll call this inspect command on inspect command. On inspect command. And we just want the arguments here. We want to know what you passed it. So we can just assume that you're passing something properly. So let's say you pass string command name equals, let's see, string util split command text on strings, and get whatever argument was passed. We want to get that command's map, so we'll say int command map equals jmap get object from the get command map for this command name. Now, if the command map was found, else, and if, we'll we'll do console helper dot print command not found and the command name. Otherwise, we're actually going to save the file and then print out that file. So I'm going to say jvalue dot, because I don't know a way to print out something as text, which I wish they implemented. There just isn't. But you can write to a file. And so you give it the object, which is the command map, and then you give it a string. So I'm just going to say temp.json. I'm going to put it in data. Because by default it's going to be in the top level Skyrim directory. I'm going to put it in data slash my cool commands temp. I don't know if that'll work. And I think you can use these slashes without the double slashes. And then I want to read it back and print it out. So for that, I installed Papyrus util. So let me make sure that it's on. Boop, cool, because that lets you read from a file. And so we'll say string file path equals this thing. And then we'll read from it. We'll say console helper dot print, and then we're just going to print out miscutil dot read from file. Then you just give it the file name. So it's dot read from file path. I don't know. See if it works. Okay, let's go to Riverwood. Look at Kaji lady. Cool, so we can just say list and there's the commands, so we can inspect. Ooh, check that out. Let's inspect list. Gives you the callback event name and everything. Looks really pretty, right? If you go into your data folder now, there should be a file. If you're using mod organizer 2, it's going to be in your overwrite directory. There's my cool commands. There's temp. There's temp JSON. Cool. Ta-da! Cool, that's going to super duper help us. Let me quit out of Skyrim. Cool, we've got inspect, we've got list. We know that listening is working. What should we do next? I think we kind of need to do subcommands, and then we can do flags and options. Subcommands is going to be so much nicer. All this stuff's going to be so much nicer doing it this way. So let's add a cool command that has subcommands. Let's add the gimme command, but we'll do it this way using the global interface. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Gimme command. It's for the top level, but we'll have callback events for individual subcommands. So let's say gimme command. We don't even need a callback event for the top level. So we're going to say register command, and then we're going to say custom console commands dot register subcommand for gimme. Then we can say register for mod event called gold subcommand. It's called gold subcommand. Cool. And these don't necessarily need to get the command text. These could get just the arguments passed to them. I think for the low level stuff, we'll keep it like this. I think whether it's a command or a subcommand, if you use the low level SKSE mod events, the string that you get will be the full command text. So we'll say on gold. Zoom in for you. Sorry about that. It's an event on gold subcommand. And it's an SKSE event, so it takes all this stuff. And if you're wondering, it's just a convention. It comes from the JavaScript node community that you can just use underscore for things that you don't care about. So if we're not using this, for example, I like to give that the word sender to know what it is, but the float is just, we know it's a numeric command coming through, and we don't care about it. So we'll say int gold amount equals string util dot split the command text on spaces, and then 0 is going to be gimme, 1 is going to be gold, and 2 is going to be the amount. So we'll say game get player, add item, game get form to get the item, it's OF for gold, and we'll give them that amount. Cool, so we want that to work. Okay, register subcommand, let's go make it work. Here's what we need. Commands don't necessarily need versions. They shouldn't have them. That concept shouldn't exist on that level. These other things are good though. We can obviously add all this stuff back some other time. We don't need any of this right now. Okay, so we get the command map. We're not getting a new one, we're getting an existing one. Let's just say we could have a helper for that because we're going to be using it kind of a lot. It's not necessarily required. And say get command map ID. So I'm just a little bit frightened about how similar they are. It's easy to mess up. Say get existing versus get new so that it's easier for your eyes to see the difference. In this case, we're going to say get object. We're going to return get object that. Wow, siren. It's barely worth having a helper method, but maybe we won't because I don't want to go through this whole call stack where we have to get the instance. But we have to do that anyway to get the ID. Because we're getting it here. So sure. Get existing command map ID. Register subcommand. Int command map equals custom console commands get existing command map ID for the command. And then we'll add subcommands. We'll say int subcommand list, which is an array, equals J map get object within the command map called, because these things have names, subcommands. If it doesn't exist, then we'll add it. And we'll say jmap set object on the command map subcommands. We'll add this array. So it's going to be an array of, you guessed it, maps, which each represent the commands. So we're going to do something basically exactly like this, like we did here for the command map, but it's a subcommand map. So we need a subcommand map. We're going to assume that it doesn't exist. We'll say int subcommand map equals jmap object, and then we'll just set strings just like we did before, basically, but it's a subcommand map. We'll say command is the command, name is the subcommand name. Sometimes it's nice to have that repetitive information and nice to have that command name in case we get like an instance of the subcommand. We don't really need it. Just like we don't need the name here. I'll just call it name. Call it subcommand name so we don't get confused or something, but and then let's add this to the array. So we'll say beep. Oh, the array is supposed to be a J array, my bad. Subcommand map inside of the array. So subcommand array. Get this array called subcommands. If it doesn't exist, we need to make a new one. Subcommand array equals jarray.object, make a new one, and add it to the array. Now I'm an idiot. It is jmap. And then it's a J array. And we're going to put this inside of that J array. J array dot add object subcommand map. Add object to the subcommand array. I think that inspect command is really going to help us. I deleted it by accident. I think that inspect command is really going to help us because we'll get to see what that object structure looks like. And the JSON gets kind of dirtied up with some type information, which I don't love. The JSON rather. So let's say inspect. Let's just try gimme gold 42. No gimme command found. And it doesn't have a callback. We never implemented subcommands. Make sure list still works, totally works. There's no callback for the gold one, if you remember. The gimme one, rather. We never gave it a we never gave gimme a callback event. So we're just looking for one on the child. So on console command what we want to do is see if there is a subcommand that matches. String subcommand name equals, so let's say string array command parts equals this. We'll split it. Command name is command parts 1. Subcommand name equals command parts 2. So number 1. If there's a command map, we're totally not, we put this into the array. We want a map. We want a map of subcommands, not a freaking array. I'm an idiot. I had the idea that you wanted to be able to like loop through them or something. So we get the object, which is a map of subcommands. If it doesn't exist, we'll make it as a new map, and we'll set it under the main one called subcommands. And then we'll make a new like little map for this individual subcommand, and then in the big map for all of the subcommands, we'll say jmap set object in the subcommand map, which we can call subcommands map. Call all subcommands or something. Under the name, whatever this subcommand's name is, and then the object. So now back over here, if we get the command, we can say int subcommand map equals jmap get object from the command map. Let's see, we need the subcommands map. And we will probably only do this if there is a parameter, but whatever. From the command map, get a map called subcommands, and then inside of it, if jmap, say int subcommand map equals jmap get object from the subcommands map, where the name is subcommand name. Oof. Okay, if subcommand map exists, else, and if. If there is one, then we'll get the subcommand, the callback event, from the subcommand map instead of the command map. Then we'll call it. Oof. I like having global scripts with a bunch of helpers for these things. Maybe we'll end up there. Okay. Gimme gold 42. Let me inspect. Let me list. Ah, list doesn't have gimme in the list. That's a problem. Did we compile this? Register command gimme. we call it register command, it should show up. We don't have an event handler thingy for it, but it should still show up in our list. There's Gimme. Gimme gold 42. 42 gold added. Let's inspect Gimme to see what it looks like. Cool, it has no callback event itself. I still get cut off pretty close over there, but it doesn't have one itself. Its name is Gimme. It has a map of subcommands, including one for gold, which has its own callback event and has the name gold. Cool. Gold is kind of redundant, but it's again just like the top level name. It's nice to have. Awesome sauce. We've got things working. Yeah, we do. I'm gonna go small again. And now I'm gonna drink some tea and think about what we're gonna do. Probably flags. Okay, I gotta wait for my tea to cool off now. Let's do flags and then options. I think this will be fun because we're gonna do parsing and we'll actually parse into JContainer objects. Ooh, oh my goodness, we'll use it to make it work. So let's go back to our caller over here. Gold. So let's say that we want to make a flag for gold called S, which when passed will make it silent. Because by default when you use add item, there's an option for whether it's silent or not. It'll show you in the top left corner. So let's say custom console commands add flag. Should we call it subcommand flag or just top level flag for any of them? Now that I'm thinking about it, we could say register command. And if you provide a subcommand, then it's a subcommand. We'll think about it. We'll think about it. I don't want to confuse people. And actually, to make this way more easy for our coders, our users, so y'all, let's say add subcommand flag. Maybe? Adding flags and options will just keep generic. And we'll give it a name. It needs a name. Silent. It's got a command and a subcommand. We'll give it a like short alias. I'm just going to call that short equals S. Could have a description. We don't need that stuff right now. Yeah, that's it. That's a flag. And then what they will do is they're going to call custom console commands get flag. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Because down here, you're going to want to say either it's silent or it's not. So there's this option, A be silent. And we want to set it equal to whether or not it's supposed to be silent. So bool silent should equal whether or not this text contains that flag. Like a flag set get flag special, silent rather, from command text. That's maybe the easiest way. We could also have a way for them to parse. So do this first. Second, provide helper for parsing. So I want to parse into like into objects. So let's do add flag first. Wish you could say alias, but alias isn't something you can have as a parameter name because it's a thing. And you can't do that in Papyrus. No, you can't. Okay, global and function. So we'll say this is flag name, string name, string short, which doesn't need to have one. It needs a command or it needs a command. The optional thing is subcommands and short are both optional. I think in what order people would want to call these if they do it ordinally in order. Why is that red? Why is that red? String. Cool. We are going to register a flag. We need the command or subcommand. So whether it's on a command or a subcommand, it'll have the same interface. So let's say int command or subcommand map equals custom console commands dot get command or subcommand map ID. Command subcommand. It's a function that returns an integer, and it takes the command, and it should always take a subcommand as well, but whatever. May or may not. So we'll say basically if subcommand, else, and if. Good girl, you need to go outside? Let me know if you do. Check on the dog. She's probably fine. She'll go to the door. We've gone out a million times today. If there's a subcommand, then we're gonna find it. Yeah, we're gonna find it. I was gonna sneeze and then I didn't. Oh, it's the worst. So get existing command map ID. Let's say get existing subcommand map ID from command string subcommand, because we're just going to delegate these. We're going to return get existing command map ID for the command, or we're going to say if there's a subcommand provided, return get existing subcommand map ID for the command and the subcommand. And what this will actually do for the subcommand one, we'll do int command map equals how about subcommands map equals jmap get object, which is the subcommands map, from get the existing command map ID called subcommands. I need to give this command. And then from that, we'll look for the subcommand. So we'll just return it, essentially. We'll return jmap get object, just like we do above, but it's in the subcommands map. Put subcommand. Cool, 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 cool. So did we implement get command or subcommand map? Toads did. And it compiles, which is cool. Hate that this stays red, but you gotta give it a second and it'll catch up to us. Alright, command or subcommand map. There it goes. We want to add this flag. Again, we got a to-do handle if flag already there. We're basically going to override it because we're going to say int flag map, which just defines the flag properties, equals a new map. And then on the flag map, we'll set a string. No, it's sorry. I'm still learning this. I'm still getting used to like the jmap call something. It just feels like you should be able to say flag map dot, but just like my brain is still catching up a little bit. Name. I don't need the command or the subcommand, but I do like having the name there. See, I did it again. Flag map. Let's do the short if it's provided. There might be a description or something. And now let's add it to the map of flags if there is one for this object. So we want to say something kind of like this. Int flags map equals jmap get object on the command or subcommand map called flags. If it doesn't exist, then we'll make it. We'll say flags map equals jmap dot object. We'll make a new one. And then we'll add it to the command or subcommand map, just something called flags. We'll say jmap dot set object in the command or subcommand map called flags, and it will equal the flags map. So we do that first, and then we can basically, once that exists, we'll just add this to the flags map. Set object, where the key is the name of the flag, and the object is the, so we do it in the flags map, and the object itself is the flag map. Yeah, the singular plural stuff is a little bit much, but whatever. Cool, 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 cool. I mean, if we go into game, we should already see that get added. Let's see if this compiles. I don't think it will because we have this get flag, which we haven't implemented. Sure, let's see if we can add it. We might just add it as an empty function and then revisit it. Get flag, string flag name, just call it flag, string command text global. I kind of want to revisit this, and let's just see our inspect work and print out the flag information on the gimme command. Alright, let's head in and see if it works. We're just going to inspect gimme and see if the flags show up. Nope. Alright, we did add it to gimme, right? And we'll revisit this thing. Add flag called silent to gimme gold. Let's open it up in the real project. Add flag called silent to the command. So command and subcommand get that thing. It's not getting added. That's right, I didn't do anything, I just recompiled. Here if I inspect, gotta fix that. Inspect gimme. We get name gimme, subcommands, gold, flags, silent. Silent has a short S. Yeah, it's got flags. So now we need to implement get flag. Get flag. Beep. Cars out there. Fucking car horns. Here's what I would like to do. I'd like there to be one kind of parse function which users can call. It'll actually be on custom console commands and it'll give you back a parse identifier. I wonder what that'll be. And then you can ask us using that parse identifier, hey, does this have a flag or anything like that? So let's say function parse to object string command text. Global. And then given one of these things, you can ask, does object have flag and stuff like that. So we'll say like function parse result has flag. String flag int parse result get flag will just do return parse result has flag parse to object command text comma flag. Let's return an integer. So this is kind of our main parser function. These are just little things that do stuff on it. This will say, hey, does this flag exist on the object? So it'll say jmap bool. Ooh, this should be has flag. You can get the value of an option, but flags you just pass and they don't have like values or anything. So this really is does this JMap have a certain flag? So we'll just give it an array of flag names. So, and it'll always be there. So we'll say, this is a map that we have. So JMap get object. So like int flag list, it's really flags array, equals get from the parse result flags. And then we just return jarray dot find. Is there like a get? I think you have to do find string in the flags array, and the string is the flag that they're asking us for. Return if that is greater than -1. Okay, let's parse some stuff. I don't like that this is parse result and this says object. Let's say get parse result or something. Generate parse result. Something like that. I don't know. I don't want to just say parse. I mean, we could say parse. Cool. So here's where we parse it, and we're gonna return a map. So we're gonna parse everything into like a little map. So we're gonna say parse result, or just result. Return the result, and we'll do stuff. Let's start by splitting this into parts. We can go ahead and say jmap set string command text, like original command. You can get the original command, put that on the result. String dot string util dot split command text on spaces. So we need to find out if there's a subcommand in here, but there could be flags in here. And you could do command flag subcommand if we want to allow that. We could simplify it by not allowing that. Okay, for completeness, we'll get the main command. And then we'll loop through its flags and options after that to see if they match before the command hits the subcommand. It's going to be a lot. I can do most of it out of episode. But let's do one thing, which is set the defaults of a number of things here. So like there's int result, let's say int flags array equals jarray dot object, and int option map equals jmap dot object. I should check that email. Oof, family drama. Okay. Let's add these to the array to the result thing, so that the results always have a list of flags and options and stuff like that, even if they're empty, so that parsing the results is just easier. So say jmap set string on the result that we're going to provide for this parse result called flags, and we'll set it equal to the flags array. And we're not really doing options yet, but we'll say options options map. Okay, cool. Oof. Okay, let's parse this thing. String command equals parts 0. See if we can find that command. Int command map equals custom console commands get existing command map ID for command. If it doesn't exist, let's just return the result immediately with the text, but not the command. Otherwise, we found it. So, like, to do, loop over the commands, flags, options, looking for them or else a subcommand. Loop over these parts. Index equals 0. While index is less than the index, the parts dot length, and let's set this equal to 1 because we want to skip the original command. We'll look at what's there. We'll see if it's a subcommand. We can always add command and subcommand to this, and they'll just be null to start with, or empty. Cool. And when we find one, we'll set this. For now, we're just looking for a subcommand. But for now, we don't even need to do this loop. Right now, we're just looking for the second argument. String subcommand equals parts 1. Int subcommand map equals custom console commands get existing subcommand map ID for the command and the subcommand. And this is really if subcommand, if there is a part or if the part's length is greater than 1, then let's get it, see if it exists. If there's a subcommand map, else, and if there is one, let's update this to be just the name of the subcommand. So the parse result folks can get the command name and the subcommand from a given parse. And we'll also have arguments. We'll have jmap set string result arguments and an array of arguments. So we'll have an array of arguments. Which would be blank to start with. Okay, else, if there is one, do we do anything if there isn't? Okay, we haven't done options or flags yet. We need to do that. Let's do this. So that I can usually check down here if there is a subcommand. Hey baby, you okay? For the arguments array, let's actually start off with a regular one, maybe. So let's loop through all the parts, but we're just going to do it down here after we find out if there's a subcommand yet. So we won't let you right now do like gimme -s blah. You've got to do gimme blah -s. So let's loop over looking for, in this case, just subcommand options. We'll do it if there's a subcommand map. And we'll add different examples to branch in different areas. Right now we'll just do this. We'll start at index 2 because we know that we'll start at index 0 is nothing, 1 was the command, 2 is the subcommand. We know there is a subcommand, so we want to start at 3. So let's see if any of the arguments are a flag. So let's get the int subcommand flags equals jmap get object from the subcommand map called flags. If subcommand flags I would totally love to have a whole file just to make a parser. We'll see. We could have a custom console commands parser, or I could put everything in custom console commands. We'll see. But even if this is 100, 200 lines long, it's probably okay. If there's subcommand flags, we will check for them. And if the argument is a flag, then we'll add it to the flag list. If not, then we'll add it to the argument list. So we have to loop through the flags for every argument. No, we just need to find it and see if it's in there. Can we see if an array has something? We can. Int matching flag equals JArray find string. This part is string part or arg equals parts index. We're looking inside of the subcommand flags array for this arg. If it was found, else, and if. So if we found a flag, then we can get its name by getting that element in the JArray at this index. So we'll say, let's add to the flags, JArray add string to the, what's it called? Just flags array? Could have just called it flags, found flags, whatever. With the flag, which is JArray get string from this subcommand flags at the matching flag index. Otherwise, JArray add string to the arguments array, this arg. Oof. Find a way for inspect to print this out. We'll make a little thing that just runs parse and prints out the object, maybe. Might be time for that. See if this compiles. This only goes through one working branch. Like we only add to the arguments array if you find a subcommand. It's a really deep kind of nest of if conditionals and while loops. If, while, if. Jeepers. So let's make a command that allows us to parse everything passed to it and yeah, and then print out the resulting object. So in my cool commands, let's add one called parse. It's a parse command. Parse command on parse command. Stressful things. Super stressful crap. But I want to get this mod done, something fierce. So what we'll do is we'll say we know that parse was the name of the command. And so we know that the text that we want to parse is the command text, but after parse there'll be like parse space whatever. So let's say string command to parse equals stringutil.substring. Get a substring of the command text starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's like command dot length plus 1 for the extra space. Oh, it's a string. You can't say dot length. You have to say stringutil.getLength. Now we've got a command to parse. So now let's parse it into an object. Parse result equals custom console commands parse command to parse. And then let's print it, let's inspect it. Let's write this out into a function called inspect object, int object. Object. Inspect command or object command map. Cool. So now we can use inspect object from down here, and we can say inspect object parse result. Cool. I want to see if this works. Well, inspect needs to be a little bit smarter. I'd have to use JDB for something like this. Arguments, flags, and options are objects, so for this to really work well, we need to print those out too. So what we'll do is we'll just do that. We'll say inspect object, parse result, then console helper dot print. We'll start up here with parse result for and the command to parse. Then we'll say arguments, we'll inspect object, jmap, get object, parse result, arguments, then flags, then options. Cool, let's see if that works. Try more tea. I'm stressed as fuck. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Let's parse gimme gold. They're all printing out like the same object. Do we not update the object that we're inspecting? We probably didn't. So the code I think looks good. I think maybe it's something about the writing to a file. I mean, it should dump this and print to file, and then dump the arguments sub-object, which is an array. Print to file. I'm going to say the file path equals temp dash and the object ID or something. So that if it's all running at the same time, like it's not accidentally reading and reading and reading from the same file, like it hasn't gotten updated or something like that. Yeah, I don't know what the dealio is, yo. And if this doesn't work, I'll look at the files on disk. It seems like it would work. JMap. Get the object ID for like arguments or whatever. Parse gimme gold. Ah, look at that. There we go. There's a file thingy. No flags, no options. Let's try, I gotta fix this up key thing. Parse gimme gold S. I don't think we're looking for the short. It shouldn't really be called a short. Yeah, sure, short, long. So what we should actually look for is like dash dash silent or dash S. So we should cache those on the object. When we register a flag on the object, add flag. Okay, we add this little object. Is that what we're looping through? Yeah, the subcommand map has a thing called flags. But those are little objects. Those aren't strings. So for each one of these little objects, let's have it have its own little array with the potential ways of calling it. So I'm going to say jmap set string set obj. Let's say int flag console texts, I don't know, equals jarray dot new or object, and we'll say jarray add string to flag console text, and it will be dash dash in the name. And then there's one which is just dash followed by the short, assuming a short was provided. And then we'll add this to our map, our flag map, which defines the flag, and I'll say it's arguments or argument names. Argument names. Let's roll with that. Flag console text. Let's change flag console text to flag arguments. Flag arguments, sure. Argument names, sure. Flag args, argument names, let's do argument names. And then so when we're parsing, I would like to actually, on the top level command, I want this to be speedy. I'd like a top level command where we have an array, a JArray of all of the of all of these argument names like this, and then a second JArray of the flag objects that they direct to, so that whenever we're parsing the command line, we can, for each thing in the command line that we stumble upon, we'll ask it to, for the whole command, just check if an array contains this value just once without looping. It's very fast. It has to iterate through the array, but oh no, we don't want it to iterate through the array. Let's do it as a map. Okay, we'll have a map. We'll have a map where the keys are options. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So there's flags map. Then there's also flag names. Map of flag arguments to the map IDs, to the flag IDs. Okay. We don't need this nonsense. Okay. What we're going to do is flags map is actually a flag arguments map. And I want it on the command not on the subcommand. I want the command to have one of these. Because commands and subcommands, you shouldn't be able to have like the same like -v for the command and -v for a subcommand. That would be ambiguous. So we want the command map, which we may already have, but we'll say command map get existing command map ID for this command. Flag arguments. Flags and options. Flag arguments map. Flag and options arguments map. If it doesn't exist, we add a map and we add it to the command map. We call it flags and options. And then for the short and for the name, we're going to add it to this. So we'll say jmap add string to the flag and options arguments map, where the value is -- followed by the name. And then if the short was provided, it needs to point at, we'll point it at the flag map. So actually we're setting it as an object, and it's set object. Cool. We give it the key, which is this, and then points directly to the object, which is dope. You can maybe even on this have like is flag. Set string, set, can you do bool? No. Float, int, fine. Is flag 1 is option 0. So it can check itself, it can look at itself really quickly because we're going to have a reference directly to it. This is caching, this optimization. If a short is provided, we'll add a dash in the short. So just dash and then blah. Okay. Now flags and options, that's what we search. So when we parse, we look through flags and options. It's rough getting rid of this. It's a lot, but goodbye. We're going to loop over everything and see if it's a subcommand or a flag or an option. We'll say string subcommand, may or may not exist. Okay. While we go through, we'll say int to get a matching flag or option ID. Flag or option ID. So first we'll say string arg equals parts at this index. Kind of want parts to be called command parts. Command text parts. Nice and explicit. There's the argument. int flag or option ID equals from the command, so I definitely want the command if we found it, which is right here, command map. And if it doesn't exist, we piece out already. So from the command map, let's get an object from the command map where the, let me make sure we're setting an object up here. Good. Where the ID is flags and options. Okay, we want the flags and options map, I guess. So flag and option map. We'll get that outside. Flag or option map. Flags and options map. Argument flag and option arguments map equals. Get the flags and options from the command. Cool. Let's make it so that this always gets added regardless. Do always add the options and flags, map, etc., 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 etc. for easy lookup. And do the same thing with subcommands. Just gonna add that note. Whenever we register a command or a subcommand, we won't do this thing where later we check like, hey, did we add a thing for registering, looking up our options or flags for this? We'll just always attach a map or an array for the flags or the options. So now we're looping through. We've got the arguments. So let's say int flag or option ID equals jmap get object from the flag and options argument map. But the ID is this argument. If flag or option ID, else and if. Int, we can do whatever we want there. If it's a flag, we'll add it to flags. If it's an option, we'll add it to options. And if it's an option, we'll actually get the next argument. So that'll be interesting. But for right now, it's just flags. So if jmap get int flag or option ID is flag equals 1. To do options, we'll add this as a flag. Otherwise, we're going to add it to the arguments like we were doing before. So that's up here as the arguments array. So we'll just do jarray add to the arguments array this arg. Now add string. Okay, we'll add this to the flags array. So we'll do the same thing as down here. We'll just say jarray.addString to the flags array, the name of this thing. So that's jmap get string from the flag or option ID. Whether it's a flag or an option, it doesn't matter. They're still both going to have a key called name. Oh snap. Oh snap, y'all. See if it compiles. Jeepers creepers. Peepers. Coming up on 2 hours. I would love to have a custom console commands parser dot global script that is helpers for all this stuff. But it's also beneficial to have all of it in one function for performance purposes, because I want this to perform well, and that's why we're caching stuff. So I have no idea if this is going to work. Give me gold. Now let's try parse, give me gold, S. Give me dash S gold, parse. Let me recompile the my cool commands. Adding a little debug trace function. That will only run in certain scenarios. But we're going to use console helper.print with it so we can see it in the console. So say custom console commands and text. We can say custom console commands. Now in here I can say custom console commands.debug, parsing, command text. Now for each one of these arguments that we loop over, I want to say that we're parsing that. Custom console commands debug, parse arg, and the arg. Here's a big problem. We're trying to associate the flags, options, and all that with this result that we're going to return, and we're not setting those as objects. See if that makes a difference. You know, that's why we were seeing zeros before. We don't actually need to, from our cool commands, print out anything other than the parse result. We can just print the parse result. Now let's check this out. It's because they weren't hooked up properly. Ew, those are gross. And super deadly. Let's do inspect gimme. It's got a silent flag, and we see this flags and options map here. See that? And it has dash dash silent as a key, and it's dash silent as key. Looks like that's something internally it does to like point at a different same thing when you do the JSONification. And now let's parse gimme gold. These are the parse results. No flags, no options. Let's parse gimme S gold. Arguments gold, flags silent. This other one got gold. Now let's do parse gimme gold dash S. Nice, we're just not checking for that sub command. So let's fix that, and then I think I can let you guys go home. I mean, you're already home. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're on the bus, I don't know. So if it is a flagger ID, we would do this, but first we want to see if it's a sub command. So here's, we've got the pointer towards all the flag and argument options. Let's get one for the subcommands. say else int subcommand map equals jmap get object from subcommands map for this argument. If subcommand map else and if. So we'll just add it as an argument. But if it's there, then we'll set the subcommand to be the subcommand to this arg. Cool. Let's try that. And what I like is we're going to let people be really inefficient. We can let people just say has flag, the flag name and the command text. And we'll do we'll do get option, get string option. We'll return a string, get int option. We'll return an int, and they can just provide this stuff. But we'll also have parse result versions of them, where if you've already parsed, you can ask it, hey, is this in there? And at that point, you've only gone through the parser once. And so if folks want to, they can use these public methods called parse result has flag. It's not that bad. But then either noobish programmers or folks who don't care about the performance hit can do these, can just do like these ones, which just call out to that. But so it's a friendly interface, but that also caters towards those who care about performance. So let's parse gimme gold, parse gimme has a command gimme and nothing else. Parse gimme gold, the hat has no arguments and it's got gold. Let's say, gotta fix that. Parse gimme gold foo bar. Arguments are foo and bar. We've got the full text gimme gold foo bar, which are useful, and we've got the gold subcommand. Now let's parse gimme gold s foo bar. Arguments are foo bar, and we've got the flag silent attached. Bam, y'all. What is up? What is up? JContainers in practice. We had 2 hours, so I feel like that's got to be the end of it. I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to put on some Skyrim ambient music, and I'm going to keep going through this. I'm going to do the options and get the options working. And then once that all works, I'm going to revisit things like actually making the custom console commands like start listening at the right time. And if you unregister a command, we'll deal with command unregistration. If you unregister like the last command, then we'll stop listening to commands. And then as soon as someone registers a command again, so people can register commands temporarily. Oh man, that was something, wasn't it? Okay, we got that working. It was really cool. I liked those inspect commands and the parse command that uses inspect. I really like that for working with JContainers. Just like write the JContainers JSON to a file and then read that. It looks pretty good. I like the write to file. I like it a lot. Sweet. Okay, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out. Anyone who did. Love you all. And as always, you know what I'm going to say. What is she going to say? Happy modding. Happy modding, everyone. All right. Peace.